I sold everything, left the city, and moved to the north. My plan is to build a big-ass log home all by myself. And the kicker is, I have no experience whatsoever. This will be exciting. Huah! The winter is almost over and springtime is around the corner. I have decided to build a log home all by myself, even though I haven't built anything in my whole life. I got the idea from a website, and in their way I can build without any training or experience. Last summer I bought 300 logs, and for 7 months I've been debarking them. Now I only have around 40 logs left before I finally can start building my log home.
Jag är klar med stockarna. I alla fall de största vägstockarna. Så att nu har jag plockat bort all snö från de här rundstockarna. Och det kommer bli hörnstockar. De kommer sitta i hörnen på kåken. Jag är inte riktigt klar med barkning sådär va. Men jag känner att jag har kommit på en jävla lång väg redan nu alltså. Men så är det söndag så det är vilodag idag. Så jag tänkte att vi skulle ta en liten snötur.
Last year I had marked out and saved these logs for the corners. I wanted the corner logs to have the natural tree trunk look, and I thought it would be a cool feature. So now it was time to debark the last 40 logs.
Är lite tuff på den första stocken. De här rundstockarna är faktiskt enklare att barka av. Först och främst så har barken, den tjocka barken, den har nästan ramlat av på den där så jag slipper liksom gå ner i barken. Det enda är att det tar som fan på ryggen därför jag får stå snett ner så här. Men det brukar ge sig efter 40 stockar.
And beside the round logs, I needed to debark the slabs too. Figured that I had approx 500 to do, but even though it was a lot of work, it felt good using all the wood from my logs.
Det jag tycker är absolut coolast på det sättet som jag bygger så är det att jag har använt varenda jävla liten träbit från de här stockarna.
I only had a few logs left now, and I started to see the light in the end of the tunnel. All I had done for almost a year now was to debark. It had been a gruesome task and a tedious labor, but it would soon to be changed. I had staked out where the house would be on my plot, and it was time to excavate the building site. So I called in a digger guy to move some dirt. It was in the beginning of May, and we had typical April weather. Not a good time for digging, mud everywhere. But we got a lot done. We prepared for water in and laid down some drain pipes, and the next day we put down landscape fabric, drainage around the house, and filled the site with gravel. At the same time as we did the gravel, we also built up 4 corner fences. From these corners you put up wires so you can measure that your building will be 100% straight. Most important is to measure the cross-section diagonal. If you get the same measurement across, then you know that everything is square. The excavating only took 3 days, and I was a bit surprised because there was so much to do. Digging, pipes, drainage and all that gravel. The house would be 16 by 60 meters, but we digged out 18 by 18, and we had to flatten all around because the ground was leaning towards the lake. The bed of gravel was 20 to 30 centimeters high, so hopefully it would be a solid foundation for years to come.
Har ni sett vad fint det är här? Hej. Vi har en grund till huset. Vi har en grund till huset. Det är det. Det är inte dåligt. Nej, det är det inte. Mina damer och herrar, får jag lov att presentera den absolut sista stocken som jag ska barka av. Det känns ju för jävla coolt. Så att det är lika bra att döda dig då. Ja, så är jag klar. Ja, jag är klar. Äntligen! Ho-ho! Give it up! Vi är klara, vi är klara! Vi är klara! Otroligt! Fan vad glad jag är!
Yeah, it was a tremendous feeling, and it felt like I won the lottery. All this monotonous work was finally finished, and I could move forward and do other stuff. And another thing that struck me was the foundation. Now when it was done, the whole project felt so scary real. Now I had to start building. I couldn't stop, sell everything and move to the Bahamas. The groundwork was done, and there was no turning back. And Christmas came early this year, because my insulation had arrived. I had bought natural linen fiber, which would go between the logs. The good thing with this material is that it doesn't absorb water. Rain and moist just evaporate, and the wood will not rotten. And another cool thing was that I got my timber screws from the US. I bought them from my mentor Rick at Delwood Log Homes, and they cost me around $2,500. The not funny part was that the shipment to Sweden also cost me $2,500, so it burned a hole in my wallet.
Jag har kommit ganska långt faktiskt med hörnstockarna som jag håller på med. Och vad jag menar då med hörnstockar, det är att de här är ju sågade upp och ner precis som alla de andra. Men jag har stannat sågen ungefär 70 centimeter där jag då får en rundstock.
On my corner logs I had to fix the shelves by myself. And it was a real tricky job, because before you can saw the logs, you had to measure like 100 times to get everything leveled. You start at the top and mark out the height, which in my case was 25 centimeters. Then you do the same at the bottom. Now you need a guideline to put on the logs, and I used a 2x8, but you can also use a ladder or something similar. I screwed it tight and measured everything carefully. And to saw the logs I used a saw jig called Alaskan sawmill. It's a pretty smart tool. The only bad thing is it took forever to push it over the logs.
Starta din jävel!
Jag börjar se slutet på mödan. På all sågning och all barkning. Vad jag bara har gjort nu i 10, snart 11 månader. Det är fan ett år alltså. Det är inte sant. Det är att jag har fixat allt råmaterial. Det är lite skillnad om man... Jag menar, ska du bygga ett hus och så går du in och tjackar bara färdiga plankor och färdigt skit liksom. Så det är bara spika och skruva liksom. Men jag har ju stått här nu i snart ett år och bara gjort i ordning alla plankor och skit. Och man undrar hur jävla dum i huvudet jag är.
I needed to fix my last logs. In the subfloor I wanted blocked timber because it's much easier to attach the floor joist if the logs are squared. And on the internet I found a smart saw jig that cuts your timber in a 90-degree angle. I needed around 20 logs to be squared, so it took me a few days to get it done.
Tänkte jag att ni skulle få se något riktigt fjantigt. Det här är en Timmermans version av Sound of Music. Usch vad fjantigt.
It was in the end of June and I started to be finished with all my raw materials. After almost a year of preparation, I was finally ready to start building. I also had to prepare for the foundation. I needed to measure and mark out where all the stones would be. So I took a spray can and did the grid pattern. On the ground there would be 25 stones and they would lay exactly 4 meters apart.
Lättast blir väl att börja med 1, 2, 3. Så vi går den vägen.
Och vart skulle altanen?
Altanen går hit här. Så de stenarna som är längst ut.
Det är för altan.
Det är altan, så det skiter vi. Och längst ut där. Ja. Så vi börjar med 1, 2, 3.
So I started to lay down my logs on the stones, and here I had a problem. The stones had different heights and was not flat on the surface, so I didn't know how to get the logs leveled. I thought of using concrete to get the flat topside, but I heard that concrete is no good because it absorbs water and then the logs rotten. So I had to take my time to figure out the best way to handle this dilemma.
Alltså jag förstår ju principen att den här måste sågas ur lite grann där den ligger och lutar sig på. Ja, jag gör så här att jag får suga på saken. Det här är lite pillemarigt. Det måste ju vara ganska bra i våg alltså. Så att det ligger rätt. Annars lutar hela huset.
The first thing I had to do was to check the height difference of all points. I borrowed a level laser, and with that machine I could measure and see how much I had to carve out from my logs. And here I had problem number 2. The surface on the stones was irregular, so I didn't know where on the log I should carve. But one day it hit me. If I put carbon paper between the log and the stone, I would get marks, and then I only had to cut out these black spots until the logs had the right level. Well, it seemed to be an easy job, but hell, it was brutal.
Kanot. Då är hela första laget klart. Det får man ju fira med att dansa en liten skottsjigg. Ja!
The first row was now done, and I started on my second one. The first layer took me almost a month, and there was a lot of work involved. Besides carving the logs, I had to measure everything again and again, both horizontal and diagonal. It's so important that the first row is squared, because you can't fix it later. If something is crooked, the whole house would be crooked. The second layer was much easier though. Everything was flat and straight, so I could concentrate on just sawing and fitting the pieces together. I put my linen insulation between the logs and fastened with a stapler. And I also had done a 2 cm deep cut on all my logs with a chainsaw. This cut releases the tension of the logs and prevents ugly cracks along the sides. And for last, I used my timber screw to secure the logs to each other.
Så då är all skruvning, allting klart för idag. Imorgon så kommer en granne, en snickare. Ja, jag gör det. Och ska faktiskt hjälpa mig med golvreglarna.
So I got some help from my neighbor Sven-Ove Ling, and he's the village handyman. If something needs to be fixed, you call this guy. And I had asked him if he could help me a couple of days with the floor joist, but as it would turn out, our companionship would be much longer than that.
Så där ja, då har vi fått i ordning första rutan. Ovanpå här kommer golvet ligga. Det ligger i våg någorlunda, för jag får hyvla något skit. Men det är bagatell, jag menar om golvet går lite, en halv centimeter upp, det skiter jag i.
Because I had a half-meter space under the house, I needed to insulate the pipes that came from the ground. Here will water, sewer and geothermal heating go, and it's kind of smart to insulate well so the water won't freeze at winter time. My logs had dried for a year now, and I hope it was enough. The problem when building a log home is shrinkage. If your logs are green, they will shrink more, and depending on the climate, it can take 1 to 3 years before they dry out. Best material to use is dead wood. They will not shrink at all. I had a plan on how to build a house. First down with the stones, then on with the subfloor and the floor joist. And when you build a regular timber house, you start with the first row and go upwards. But in my case, I would both have laying and standing logs, so we had to start with the corners. And the construction is pretty easy. You start to cut out a V female shape, then you do a V male on the oncoming log, and you do this until 10 rows is done, and after that you do all 4 corners and then the middle walls. And sure, it's easy to draw and build in a computer, but doing it in real life was a totally different ballgame.
Ni ser här, har vi börjat komma upp ett par lager nu. Och det är 7:e stocken som ligger där. Det ser skitbra ut allting här alltså. Varje stock är 25 centimeter, så 4 stockar, 1, 2, 3, 4, det är 1 meter. Så blir det 2 meter. Och vi ska upp på 2,50. Det som är lite skumt så här, eller känns, det är det att väggen är ju klar här. Jag behöver ju inte regla och inte isolera, ingenting. Behöver inte bygga. Så det här är innerväggen. Jag tycker det är så jävla iskallt. Alltså. Snyggt som fan är det också.
It was a little bit tricky to get the corners straight. The trunks of the logs had different sizes, so I had to trim and fine-tune to get them to fit.
Ah, man.
And when the log was in place, then I used a template with a V-shape and marked out where to cut.
Coolt. Jag satt på verandan igår kväll. Tittade på de här 7 stockarna som jag satt uppe. Satt bara och fnittrade liksom, för jag tycker det är helt jävla sanslöst. Jag kan liksom inte fatta grejen att nu har jag snart ett hus liksom. Ja, det är snart. Det lär ju ta ett par månader, men att man kan se väggen börja resa sig liksom. Det är jävligt imponerande. Jag blir helt såld liksom.